If you're between 13 and 30, this video will either wake you up or you'll scroll past it and regret that decision for the next 5 years. I'm not saying that for drama. I'm saying it because I'm 28, and I wasted years chasing people, goals, and versions of myself that were never real. I kept thinking, once I hit this milestone, I'll feel fulfilled. Once they respect me, I'll feel enough. Once I finally make it, I'll be happy. But here's what they don't tell you. You don't become someone different at 28. You become exactly what you allowed from 18 to now. And if you don't wake up soon, you'll end up like most people, confident on Instagram, quietly panicking in real life. This isn't a motivational video, it's a mirror. And if you can handle what you see here, you might finally stop wasting your potential on distractions disguised as purpose. So here it is, 10 brutal, life-altering truths I wish someone forced me to face years ago because they cost me more time, energy, and identity than I ever planned to give. And the first one? It'll make you realize why your life still feels stuck, even though you swear you're doing everything right. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. No one is coming to save you. When I was 23, I remember sitting in my apartment on a cold Tuesday night. I had $42 in my account, no direction, and a to-do list I kept rewriting just to feel in control. Spotify was on shuffle. Phone was face-up silent. And in my head, I kept telling myself what I always did. Something's coming, a break, a moment, a sign. I wasn't lazy. I was just waiting for life to notice me, for someone to show up, see my potential, and pull me out. I thought maybe it'd be a mentor, maybe a phone call, maybe some magical turning point where I'd finally feel like this is it. But here's what I've learned since then. No one's coming. And if that scares you, it should. Because for most people, that realization doesn't hit them until it's too late. When the friends fade, the potential expires, and the mirror stops lying. There is no rescue mission. No one is sitting around thinking about how to fix your life. Everyone's busy trying to survive their own. And the moment you accept that is the moment your life begins. It's not harsh, it's freeing. Because once you stop waiting for the world to choose you, you start building the version of you the world can't ignore. But that doesn't happen with motivation. It happens with motion, clumsy, quiet, unsexy effort when no one's watching. The problem is, most people never get past the wait. They spend their lives in mental draft mode, plotting, journaling, overplanning. They don't need more vision boards. They need one move. Today. Messy, imperfect, real. Because the longer you wait for someone to pick you, the more you train your brain to believe you can't move without permission. That's the trap. And if you want one line that slaps the fantasy out of your head, here it is. The life you want isn't coming. It's being built, or it's being delayed by you. But just when you start to build, just when you feel momentum, you'll meet resistance that looks like love. The people closest to you will smile, but deep down, they'll hope you stay the same. Let's talk about that in Chapter 2. Chapter 2. People don't want you to change, even if they say they do. I remember the first time I said no. No to going out. No to killing another night with people I was starting to outgrow. No to playing small just to stay likable. And the reaction wasn't anger. It was silence. The kind that doesn't argue with you, just starts excluding you. See, people will say they want you to grow. They'll post quotes like, elevate your circle. They'll tell you they believe in your potential. But the second your growth makes them feel left behind, they'll pull away. Not loudly. Just enough to remind you that your evolution is making things awkward. And that's the moment where most people fold. They dim themselves. They shrink. They throw the hoodie back on, show up to the same parties, laugh at the same jokes they've outgrown, just to avoid being the one who changed. Because let's be real, change isn't hard because it's uncomfortable. It's hard because it threatens comfort for the people who knew the older version of you. They loved the version of you that didn't say no. The one who didn't have boundaries, the one who played along, stayed quiet, kept the energy predictable. But the minute you start building, waking up earlier, skipping the distractions, saying no without guilt, you're not fun anymore. You're intimidating. You're different. And different makes people confront what they haven't done yet. That's why they'll joke about you thinking you're better. Why they'll say you're too intense now. Why your name will leave their mouth more when you're not around. Not because you've become someone worse, but because you've become someone they can no longer control through comfort. Truth is, they don't miss the old you. They miss how the old you made them feel better about standing still. But once you've made peace with losing their approval, you'll face a harder truth. The world doesn't care how hard you're trying. It only pays attention to what you can prove. Let's talk about that in Chapter 3. Chapter 3. The world rewards results, not effort. There's this subtle betrayal no one warns you about. You grow up being told that trying matters, that if you just work hard, show up, and put in your best, things will eventually work out. But they don't always, because the world isn't built like a classroom, it's built like a scoreboard. You don't get extra credit for trying. You get remembered for what you finish. I learned this during one of the hardest seasons of my life. I was grinding in silence, working 12 hours a day on a passion project that I believed would change everything. I gave it my all, sacrificed sleep, skipped birthdays, pulled all-nighters. I finished it, hit publish, and the world said nothing. No views, no feedback, no applause, just silence. And I remember sitting there, exhausted, thinking, how could this be? I tried so hard, but that was the trap. I was still clinging to the idea that effort guaranteed outcome. It doesn't. Effort matters to you, results matter to them, and until you produce something that impacts people, something they can see, use, feel, you don't exist in the world's eyes. Not because people are cruel, but because attention is scarce. No one cares how long it took. They care if it moves them, helps them, solves something, shakes something. You can cry over your effort, or you can build systems that convert it into something real. Because trying hard and producing results? Two completely different skill sets. The people who rise don't just work hard. They learn how to work effectively. They obsess over output, not just effort. They don't fall in love with the struggle. They fall in love with making it count. And if you think this sounds harsh, good. Because the sooner you face it, the sooner you stop wasting energy on being busy and start channeling it into actually building something that speaks for itself. Here's the truth that hit me like a brick. The world doesn't remember how hard you tried. It remembers what you left behind. But even when you do leave something behind, even when you win, you'll realize that being right or good or talented isn't what gets you respected. Respect follows something else entirely: power. Let's unpack that in Chapter 4. Chapter 4. People respect power more than morality. I used to believe that if I was a good person, if I showed up with kindness, stayed humble, respected everyone, I'd be respected back. I really believed that, until the day someone half as talented, half as disciplined, and twice as loud walked into a room and got everything I was waiting for: recognition, access, influence, all the things I thought I was quietly earning. And that's when it hit me. People don't respond to goodness. They respond to gravity. You can have the best intentions, the kindest heart, the cleanest record, but if you walk into a room with no presence, no edge, no posture, you get ignored, and it hurts. Because being good feels morally right. But in the real world, power commands attention. Not just the power of position, I'm talking about the power of posture. The way you speak, the way you move, the way you hold silence without shrinking. When I first started setting boundaries, small ones even, like saying, "I'm not free today," or "that won't work for me," something weird happened. The same people who used to walk all over me started pausing, listening, adjusting, not because I became aggressive, but because I stopped being available for everything. I stopped explaining every decision. I stopped trying to seem nice. And that's when I realized something I wish I learned 10 years earlier. Respect doesn't come when you're agreeable. It comes when you become expensive to offend. It doesn't matter how pure your motives are if no one feels your presence. If your absence doesn't shift the room, you never really had power in it. And yeah, that sounds unfair, because it is. But now you've seen behind the curtain. Morality might make you feel clean, but power is what makes people listen. And even when you gain that power, even when people finally respect you, you'll run face first into something no one is immune to. Reality doesn't care how fair your story is. Let's get painfully honest in Chapter 5. Chapter 5. Life is unfair. There was a guy I used to work with. Barely showed up on time, didn't care about the work, always had an excuse ready, but he was loud, charming, knew how to talk big in meetings. One day he got promoted. I remember standing in the bathroom that evening, looking at myself in the mirror, thinking, what's the point? I had been playing by the rules, grinding, keeping my head down, doing the work no one noticed, and none of it seemed to matter. And that was the moment I realized something brutal. Life doesn't reward fairness. It rewards leverage. We grow up thinking the world operates on logic. You do good. Good things happen. You try hard. You get rewarded. You treat people right. They treat you better. But real life? Real life hands out wins based on timing, connections, appearance, strategy, and yes, sometimes pure randomness. It hurts, because you're not just fighting obstacles, you're fighting the lie you were raised with. That meritocracy is real. That effort always wins. That life is supposed to be just. But here's what makes that pain even worse. We wait for the world to feel fair before we let ourselves go all in. We say things like, once they see how hard I work, once things start aligning, but life never aligns by accident. It's rigged from the start. And still, you have to play. Because the moment you stop playing, you let unfairness win twice. First by happening to you, second by stopping you. I've seen people quit their dreams not because they weren't talented, but because they couldn't stomach the fact that less deserving people were getting there first. But here's the truth. You don't rise because the system is fair. You rise because you refuse to let it define you. You become undeniable, not by waiting for justice, but by building anyway, louder, sharper, stronger than what they expected. So yeah, life is unfair, but that doesn't mean it's unplayable. And when you finally do start winning, when your work starts speaking louder than your excuses, you'll realize something just as hard. Nobody cared when you were drowning. They only show up when you're standing on the boat. Let's unpack that in Chapter 6. Chapter 6. Nobody cares until you win. You'll bleed in silence, work in silence, break down in silence. And the world? It scrolls past you. I remember releasing something I had worked on for 3 months. No sleep, no backup plan, all in. Posted it, shared it. Refreshed the page like a kid on Christmas morning. Crickets, no comments, no reposts. A few pity likes from people who didn't even open it. That night, I sat in the dark and asked myself a question I wasn't ready to answer. Does anyone even care? The truth? They don't. Not yet. Because the world isn't cruel. It's just preoccupied. People care about what affects them, what benefits them, what already looks successful. Potential? They don't have time for that. Effort? Doesn't impress them. They only pay attention when you make it undeniable. And when you finally do, they act like they were cheering the whole time. Been watching you. Knew you'd make it. So proud of you. Where were those voices when you were building at 2 a.m. with no plan B? Gone. That's the part they never show you. That behind every overnight success is someone who spent years being invisible, building in the shadows, doubting themselves while still showing up. Because success doesn't just test your work ethic, it tests your tolerance for silence. And that silence? It's where most people quit. Not because they're weak, but because they assumed someone would clap for them before the victory. Here's what you need to burn into your brain. Nobody cares until you win. And once you do, they'll swear they always did. So build anyway. Show up when no one's watching. Keep receipts, not to prove them wrong, but to remind yourself who showed up when it was just you. But even when you start winning, you'll run into a more subtle trap. People suddenly offering advice, support, direction, and most of it, it's not guidance, it's projection. Let's go there in Chapter 7. Chapter 7. 99% of advice is projection. You're going to hear a lot of advice from friends, family, co-workers, strangers on the internet, and most of it sounds reasonable. Be realistic. Play it safe. Don't risk too much. But here's what they won't admit. They're not advising you. They're reliving themselves, their fears, their regrets, their past failures, wrapped up in neat little phrases like, just looking out for you. When I told people I was leaving my steady job to chase something uncertain, I didn't get questions. I got warnings. You sure you want to throw that away? It's a tough world out there. None of it was about me. It was about them, their story, their limits, their unfinished chapters. And if I had listened, I'd still be there, safe, stagnant, stuck. Here's the truth. Most advice is someone trying to protect you from the pain they never healed. That doesn't make them evil. It just means you need to filter it. Because if you don't, you'll inherit their caution, their fear, their unfinished life. So listen, but listen with a filter. And always ask, is this advice or is this projection in disguise? Now, let's talk about the invisible reason people start to undervalue you. Even when you're doing everything right, it's not your work, it's your availability. Let's break it down in Chapter 8. Chapter 8. If you're always available, you're automatically undervalued. There was a season in my life where I prided myself on being available. Text me at 1 a.m., I'd answer. Ask me for a last-minute favor, I'd show up. Need me to hop on a quick call? I was there. No hesitation. I thought I was being supportive, reliable, the kind of person everyone could count on. And at first, they loved it. But over time, I felt something shift. People started showing up late to our meetings, taking longer to reply, treating my time like background noise. I hadn't done anything wrong, except make myself too easy to access. And that's when I realized, what's always available becomes invisible. It's not just about relationships. It's psychological. When something is constantly at your fingertips, you stop valuing it. Think about it. The water from your faucet, you never think about it. But water in a desert? Priceless. You become the same. When you're always saying yes immediately, eagerly, you teach people that your time costs nothing. And if your time costs nothing, neither does your presence. I started setting small boundaries, responding slower, saying, I'm not available today, let's try next week. And guess what? People respected it. Not because I was rude, but because I finally respected myself. Here's the part no one tells you. Overexposure is the fastest way to become forgettable. If you want people to value your presence, you have to stop handing it out like a clearance item. And once you start doing that, once you pull your energy back and move with restraint, something starts to grow in the silence. It's not magic. It's not confidence. It's the skill of building confidence when you feel like nothing. Let's build it from scratch in Chapter 9. Chapter 9. Confidence is manufactured, not found. I used to think confidence was something you found, that it just arrived one day, after enough wins, compliments, or perfect timing. Like you'd wake up one morning, stretch, and suddenly feel like the main character. But that moment never came. Instead, I kept waiting, and the waiting turned into avoidance. Avoidance turned into self-doubt, and the self-doubt, it became my default setting. Until one night, I did something different. I had a presentation the next day, big deal, high stakes, and I felt like a fraud. Imposter syndrome, shaky hands, the whole package. And in the middle of spiraling, I opened my notes app and wrote this: confidence is not a feeling, it's a decision. That next morning, I walked into the room pretending I had nothing to prove. I didn't feel it, but I acted like I did. And by the end of it, I wasn't pretending anymore. That's when it clicked. Confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something you manufacture, on purpose, under pressure, when you feel like running. It's not built by shouting affirmations in the mirror. It's built in moments of discomfort, when you do the hard thing anyway, when you send the message, make the call, speak up, even if your voice cracks. Confidence is the residue of action. The more you move through fear, the more proof you create that fear doesn't get the final word. You don't get confident and then start. You start, and then your brain catches up. The strongest people I know still doubt themselves. The only difference? They don't wait for that doubt to disappear before they act. They've trained themselves to move scared, until scared doesn't feel scary anymore. And when you finally start stacking those moments, when you feel like you're making progress, building momentum, you'll face the final truth, or the one that shatters the fantasy. Let's finish this in Chapter 10. Chapter 10. Success. Looks nothing like it feels online. You know how it looks. The perfect morning routine. Sunrise runs. A MacBook on a balcony in Bali. Smiling in every clip. Success, right? Now let me tell you what it actually feels like. It's silent. It's heavy. It's repetitive. It's not the adrenaline rush you imagined. It's waking up to an inbox full of expectations. It's finishing something great and still feeling like you're behind. It's doing work that no one claps for, again and again, until the work itself becomes the reward. I remember the day my first video hit 10,000 views. The number was high. My dopamine was low. I thought I'd feel proud. Instead, I felt pressure, not to celebrate, but to prove it wasn't a fluke. And that's what they don't show you. Online, success looks like peace. In real life, success is just more problems with higher stakes. You don't arrive. You maintain. You don't feel successful. You just keep showing up. And if you don't love the grind behind the scenes, the boring, unglamorous parts, you'll burn out chasing an aesthetic. That's why so many people hit their goals and feel nothing. Because they weren't building a life. They were chasing a highlight reel. Here's the truth I wish someone screamed at me when I started. If your success depends on how it looks to others, you'll lose even when you win. So build quietly, succeed privately, and define your life by how it feels, not how it filters. And at last, I used to think life would get easier when I finally figured it out. When I earned more, looked better, proved myself. But here's the truth I learned at 28. It doesn't get easier. You just get harder to break. Not because the world finally treats you better, but because you finally stop waiting for it to. You stop trying to be liked. You stop chasing comfort. You stop daydreaming about the perfect moment and start building in the imperfect one you're in right now. Because daydreaming feels like hope, but if you're not careful, it becomes your cage. And if that hit too close, you need to watch this next. How to stop daydreaming and actually do something. That's where I show you how I broke the loop. The one that had me imagining change for years while nothing in my real life moved. Don't waste another month waiting for clarity. It's earned in motion. This is Tyler, and if you're still here, you're one of the few who's actually ready. Let's go.